Here's a preview of just some of the supplies that we will need to create our second Harry Potter Dollar Tree Valentine's Day sign. Yes, there is a Funko Pop involved, but the rest of the products you can get right from Dollar Tree. Project, you're going to want to make sure that you have a tall enough sign to build the kissing booth right on your sign. This one was just left over from summer. It's also from a previous project. So I'm actually going to cover up the back with paper since I'm going to be giving this away as a gift. And I have already removed the adhesive label with a heat gun and then sanded this down. The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to paint this with a plaster chalk paint. Now, I'll be honest, my preferred method is actually spray painting, but since it is currently about 30 degrees outside, that's not an option for me right now. So we're going to go with this one. Once we have all our components, I'm actually going to be wood staining these crates because I have it on hand. Obviously there are other options on the market, but I'm going to use this so I don't have to buy more supplies. The first thing that we need to do to get ready is this stuff is, when it says permanent and penetrating, it means it. It is an oil base. So that means doing this on carpet or anywhere that you don't want it is not recommended. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is put on some gloves. Once you have your stain open, I'm going to start with a paper towel. However, for things like the crate, first of all, you're going to want to make sure, because we are turning it upside down, I'm going to make sure that this is off first. And a paper towel is only going to take you so far because I want to make sure that all of the wood is covered. So I want to make sure to get into these little groove areas. So I'll start the towel, but eventually I'm going to come in and I'm going to start using a sponge to finish up these bars, these slats. Putting the stain on thicker does not mean it is better. In fact, that will actually mean I need to wipe that down before I let this dry. So that's a mistake that is commonly made with wood stain, is all of this excess right here, it will not dry if you don't wipe it away. So using a sponge can be more difficult because its job is literally to soak up a lot of liquid. But that ends up meaning I get too much liquid on this. And my job is going to be removing it before it dries permanently. Because that's when you get on wood stain, you'll get like sticky patches or rough spots that you don't like. It has to do with the excess not being rubbed off. Now I'm going to set this aside and this needs to dry. So now I'm just going to finish the rest of these poles, and then these need to dry for at least 2 hours. So before you put this away, make sure that all of the components for your kissing booth are stained. So you're going to want the sign, the poles, and the crate before you clean up everything and leave it to dry. Here comes the part that most people either don't understand or will skip, but it does say it on the bottle. It says wait 5 to 15 minutes to wipe away excess stain. What that means is I'm going to take a clean paper towel and I'm going to make sure that I have a glove on my other hand, and it's just what it sounds. You're going to go over and get any excess stain. So the longer you wait, the more the color is going to be. So you want to make sure that you go through and wipe the excess stain off of your project, because that's what will leave your wood with a smooth finish. You won't be getting any patches or rough spots or things that I typically hear people complaining about. See, and you can see that it's coming off on the gloves too. So once the wood has taken the amount of stain that it can, that stain just sits on top. So that's why you get those rough patches. You want to make sure that you're getting any of the stain, excess stain off, so that the stain can dry properly and it'll soak into the wood and look really, really pretty. Okay, so this one for sure, especially since we used that sponge, there's going to be a lot of stain on this. So all of that would have stayed on the project if you don't wipe it off in the appropriate amount of time. Once the paint on your sign has dried, that is the time to put the letters on the back of your sign. You're going to want to do this before putting the kissing booth on, because once this is glued on, you're going to have a lot harder time getting around this to get these flat. And I did this off camera because I designed this on my silhouette. You could obviously use this same design with transfers or stickers from the Dollar Tree, but since I had it, I decided to use it. This I also did off screen because I printed this on the silhouette and then stenciled it in with paint. So same process. You can use any font or any stickers or transfers that you would like on the actual kissing booth sign. Once these are on, I put a coat of Mod Podge to help protect it. And then we need to assemble our kissing booth. Now, assembling the kissing booths comes with some logistical items that you really want to consider before gluing anything. I wanted to put my sticks on the inside of this because I don't want any of the glue showing. So you first want to make sure that you know how far these are going to go in. And part of the way that you determine that is you need to make sure that you leave enough room for your figure as well as for the sign on top. So you don't have a ton of room to play with, because if you only leave this much room to glue the sign on, the sign is not going to have a lot of stability. So make sure that you know how far you have on both ends to be able to glue your sign appropriately. The other thing you want to consider is you don't want to have one rod all the way down here and one rod up here. So something that I would do is I would measure the amount that you're going to take, and I would actually draw a line on it. So I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm going to go in about 1/4 inch, and I know I am off camera, I apologize, but I'm going to go in about 1/4 inch, and I'm just going to use a Sharpie, and I will evenly mark where I need these rods to stop. And what that means is it will be even on both sides, and this is where you're going to stop placing the rod on the side. If you can see there, I just drew it with a Sharpie. And when I come in here, I'm going to stop on this end, and I will glue it from there. Now, the last logistical issue that I want you to consider is wood glue is great. I love wood glue. It's specifically designed for stuff like this. However, it is not really designed well for projects that have to suspend. So because there's a little lip here, this is not lying flat. And the other thing is that wood glue takes at least, 24 hours to dry. So I can put wood glue on this, but then I have to leave this here. I can't turn it over and put the other rod on the other side. So instead, what I recommend and what I did to put the first booth together is, yes, I added a little wood glue right here, but then I also went in with some hot glue, and I hot glued this bottom portion to the crate. And I hot glued it just up to the line, and then I let the hot glue completely cool. And you can see, because it gets that hard texture. But I let it cool, I turned it over, and I did the exact same thing with the other rod on the other side. And this is a way for you to get the stability as well as make sure that it is even. When the posts dry, you're gonna get this. And see, I just reinforced it with a ton of hot glue, and I'm not gonna yank it off, but these are pretty sturdy. So the next portion is now we need to attach the kissing booth sign to the top. And again, I want to line this up, and I need to make sure that my figure is going to comfortably fit under it, because if it doesn't, I'm going to be super disappointed. But as you can see, like I said, there's not a ton of room there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that I did down here, and I am going to mark where I want the booth to stop. Now, while I love the way this is turning out, I do want to embellish it with some of Dollar Tree's other Valentine's Day items. So some of the things that I grabbed were some different table scatters, which were some diamond and some lips, some of the heart ones. I came out with some wooden heart cutouts, some foam hearts, and I'm just going to use these and I'm going to embellish the rest of the sign just to make it a little bit more festive. Once you have the embellishments the way you like them, all you have to do is add the hanger, place your Dementor on here, and your sign is now ready. Guys, I am absolutely in love with how this turned out. I think it's such a fun gift and a unique Valentine's for a Harry Potter fan. Now, before we leave, you can decide whether you want to put the Funko on by gluing or if you just want to leave it on the booth. I know I just had some Funko Pop fans probably gasp at their pearls, but I bought this used. It was already out of the box, and I think this is a fun way to give new life to a pop that you may no longer be as interested in. I have several Harry Potter holiday ideas coming up, and I will be sharing where they are displayed on my Instagram that has the same name, Create Craft Costume. I hope to see you there and see you on my next video. Thanks!